I've made my choice. I can't just sit stagnant any longer. I'm going to war. Team Woodcutter, I got your back.
Hey, welcome back to Carl's Off the Grid. If you haven't noticed by now, the intro was a little bit different than my usual intro is, but I've been invited by my fellow YouTube community to participate in a special event that's going to happen this summer, where fellow YouTubers are going to post 2 videos a month on showing people how they can sharpen their gardening skills and become more self-reliant. There's going to be, right now there's 4 teams that are involved, and each team will go ahead and grow their produce, and at the end of the season we're going to weigh the produce and figure out who has been the most successful, and then they're going to receive a prize package. And there's 4 basic teams that are in competition right now. It's going to be, we'll start with the smallest team first. There's Team Peacemaker. There's Team Will It Grow, which is from the United States. Primarily, I think they're based out of the United States. Team Woodcutter, which is based out of the United States. And then there's Team Over the Pond, which is obviously the other side of the ocean. And I've chosen to side with my friends over at Team Woodcutter. And so I'm excited to get involved in this challenge. You're going to notice 2 additional videos in addition to my regular Carl's Off the Grid videos that are going to be taking place. So if you see this is a little bit different than my norm, at least now you know why. So without any further ado, let's start the first stages of gardening. I forgot one very important fact. If you look at the bottom of this video, I'm going to have a couple hashtags that are written down there. I'm going to have hashtag shedwars, and I'm going to have hashtag Team Woodcutter. If you look up those hashtags on YouTube, they will bring up different videos that other people on my team have put out there, and videos that the people that we're competing against have put out there, and use them for your educational purposes. A lot of these guys are extremely brilliant gardeners. For me, I'm more about self-reliance. I just do the basics, and I do what's worked for me for years. But some of you people may find some of this information pretty valuable, especially if you're used to being stuck in a rut and gardening the same way every year. Another way that you can resource these videos is if you look up Arkansas Woodcutter. He's kind of one of the guys that's mainstreaming what's all going on here. He will have a link on his YouTube channel to where you can tie into all of our videos. So, all right, now we'll get back to the video. My first stage of planting my garden is coming up next.
All right, you guys, the game is on. Welcome to Shed Wars 2020. We're doing it Wisconsin style. Once we get this garden growing, it's gonna take off, and I'll show you a little bit different style gardening than what everybody else has on their channels. I'm surprised I haven't seen one person do this type of gardening, and this is something that is pretty common here in the Midwest. My growing season's really short. I'm going to teach you how to mound garden. First, I'm going to start out with, I got peat moss here. This last 2-3 weeks has been terribly wet. You can tell the grass has greened up really quick. I'm going to go ahead and mix in some peat moss, and then I have to still till this garden. The soil's real hard yet because of all the snow that's been over it and the compacting that the snow does. So I'll go ahead and we'll start from here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this peat moss in, and I know this is a little bit too wet to till. You can see that parts of this garden are still holding a lot of water, but I got to get these plants in now. Typically in the Midwest here, we have to have it in by Memorial Day weekend, and that's the weekend we plant every year. If you notice here, I'm really not letting the tiller get too deep into the soil. I don't want any of this soil to blow away from wind erosion, etc. I come from a family that has farmers in it, and a lot of times in our farming fields, we don't even till. We'll just go ahead and plant, use no plow fields, as we call them here in the Midwest. Okay folks, what I'm doing here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rake this soil up into little mounds or rows, if you will. And what these mounds are going to do for me is they're going to allow me to water this garden as much as I possibly can, and the excess water will run off, thus I won't overwater my plants, and it helps them grow incredibly quick. Okay, I don't know if you noticed or not, but I made two larger mounds. That's where I'm going to plant my tomatoes and my pepper plants. And the reason that I plant on mounds is here because my growing time is so short. The best thing that we can do is plant on mounds. Last fall, to take a step back, right before the snow flew, I went ahead, and because I come from the real dairyland state, Wisconsin, not California, I went ahead and I put a whole bunch of dried cow manure on here. And then this spring, to kind of loosen up this soil a little bit, I went ahead and put a little bit of peat moss in with it. And all my soil prep has already been taking place over the winter. When I first got in here to till, you could see there were a ton of holes from the worms and stuff that have been working in here. And yeah, this is great. Everything's prepared. When I put my plants on these mounds now, what'll happen is, because my growing season is so short, I can water the living heck out of these. And in these next few weeks, these plants are really going to take off. So even though I'm way behind the schedule as far as the timeline goes because of our climate, this is going to be the time that I start to prosper and make up a little bit of ground. You can see a lot of these guys already have tomatoes on their plants and everything. My plants are only about that tall. And obviously you guys are way ahead of us. But we're going to show you who's boss at the end of the season.